It's Len Shapiro again, here in Berkeley, California, at the KRE Reunion on 10/24/2010. And we're lucky enough now to have Alice Potter, who's here to, she was a sales manager at the station during a period of time from 1964 to 1979. And Alice, why don't you start off on how you got interested in radio, where you got your start?
Be happy to tell you that. I started in New York, upstate New York, not the city. I was having a conversation with a friend after being out for dinner and a couple of drinks. We were sitting in my driveway listening to the radio in the car, and I was criticizing the announcer's voice and the music he was playing, and my friend kept saying, "What would you do?" And I kept saying what I would do. He says, "What do you suggest?" I said, "They need a lovely female voice at night, a soothing voice, a nice romantic music." So that's all that happened that night. Next day, I'm at my job. I was working for a stockbroker, and I get a telephone call. It's my friend of the night before, and he says, "I'm up at the radio station that you were criticizing," because he was a sponsor. He was a client, a customer, whatever the right term is. And he said, "I was telling him that I met this woman who has a lot of ideas about radio, and they want to meet you right away." It was 11 o'clock in the morning, and they said, "Come up during your lunch hour, we'll talk." So I arrived at the radio station. I'd never been in one before. I walk in there and I see the studio with a glass around, and I was overwhelmed. I thought, wow, what a great job. And the guy's sitting here between the turntables with his earphones on. I thought, well, that's the best job in the whole wide world. So I sit in the general manager and owner's office, and they say, "Do you have a tape recorder?" I say, "Yes." And they said, "Would you put your ideas on tape for us?" And I said, "I can do that." Then they said, "Don't forget to put in some commercials." I said, "Commercials? What do you mean?" He says, "Oh, 60-second things." I said, "I can do that." Everything he asked me, I said, "I can do that." So they call us up when you've got it together. So I went to the Yellow Pages and got all the information I needed for the commercials. And I went to the record store, and I picked out Street of Dreams for my theme song, and Art just gave me a copy of the theme music so I can have it. So then I gave them my amateurish tape, and they all sat around in a big conference room, all the entire staff. I wanted to melt and go through the floor. And they all looked at each other, and they all kept nodding and nodding and nodding. Then it was finally over, to my delight. And the general manager says, "Can you sell?" I say, "Sell what?" He says, "Sell commercials. Go up and down Main Street and tell them about your ideas on the radio, and of course you'll write the commercials yourself." I said, "I can do that." So he says, "Here's a contract pad and here's a rate sheet. Go on down to Margaret Street," which was the main street in that town. "Come back when you've got it together." So I came back. And I was so enthusiastic, I sold about 13-week contracts. And he said, "What are you going to call your program?" I said, "Alice in Slumberland." Because they said, "We don't have anything on our nighttime radio." So it was a perfect name for that time of night. So that's my first radio job.
What city, do you remember the city that it was actually in there?
Plattsburgh, New York.
Way upstate New York.
Yes, way upstate. 30 miles south of Montreal. So we had Montreal as one of our main areas of coverage.
Mm-hmm.
From there I went, and I wrote copy, and I came in every night at 11 o'clock and did my program. Then I moved to, do you remember Broadcast Magazine?
Right.
Well, I love to read the classifieds. So I saw an ad, and I put an ad in myself, and I answered the ad for a station in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, of all places. And my ad was answered by the owner of that station, and I thought that's got to be too much of a coincidence for me to answer his ad and for him to answer my ad. The next thing you know, I'm flying out to Sioux Falls to audition, and they didn't have very many on-air jobs, but they said, if you can write commercials, you can start right away and then put you on the air whenever we can find a slot. And I said, I can do that. So that was, after Sioux Falls, I went to Wichita, Kansas, to a television station, KAKE. And then I went back to South Dakota because I just didn't like Wichita. Mm-hmm. Kansas is kind of a blotto place. And so was Sioux Falls.
What years did this cover? About what years?
These are all happening in '64. So anyway, while I'm back at the Sioux Falls station, KSOO, Sioux Falls, which was both a radio and television station. And so I had a television job. I was on the air when Kennedy was shot. And just like Walter Cronkite, I'm sitting there with a camera on me and trying to think of something interesting to say because all the regular broadcasting stopped at that point, and I just sat there like a dummy, didn't know what to say about JFK and so on. Then my daughter Beverly, who you saw a minute ago, decided she was going to get married. She was living in Oakland at that time, so I fly out here to California for the wedding, and I said, what am I doing in South Dakota when there's a California out there? So I go back to Sioux Falls, and I resign, and I move to California, and the first thing I do is look in the yellow pages for broadcast stations. I would have taken a TV job, except that my last assignment was to go out in the countryside to interview some people, and the man assigned to drive me went off the road on a bridge, and we went into underneath the bridge to the lake underneath it, river underneath it. Wow. And so I was all banged up, and I wasn't looking appropriate enough to be on TV, so I thought, well, then I'll look for a radio job, and the first interview at a radio job was here at KRE, and Don Hamblin, does anyone remember Don?
Oh, yeah.
He hired me. He says, we don't have any on-air jobs, but we could use a copywriter, and I said, I can do that. So I started here, and not very long later I found out that sales was a place to be. Here I was servicing all the salesmen's accounts, and I got to know the accounts, the clients. And I thought, well, I can go out and sell as well as those guys, and I might as well be on a commission, because I was hired here at $375 a month.
Wow.
And that I was a single mother, and that was kind of tough.
Where was
Two
your
kids.
office here?
Where was you?
It was John Hamblin had his office, the one behind this first office where the traffic was. Then I moved upstairs where the sales office was. And Mr. Wright, does anyone remember Mr. Wright? He owned the station way back when. I went in and I said to him, I can sell, will you put me on the sales staff? He says, can you sell 40,000 a month? I said, yeah, I can do that. So I was hired on the sales staff of Mr. Wright's. We used to call him the Great White Father because he's a big lot of white hair. He's a very stern man, very nice. So pretty soon I worked my way up to sales manager, and that office was almost above here.
Straight up.
Did you have salespeople working for you?
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
How many did you have?
I had about 6. Dave Berglund was one of my salesmen. He's here today.
What are some of the stories that you remember about the radio station when you first came here in '64? I mean, compared, let's say, to Sioux Falls, I mean, did it look...
I thought this place was wonderful. Everybody was so friendly. It had a special atmosphere. And I love dogs. And as you could tell, I fell all over that dog out there. So we always had a station dog.
Barbara Bernstein remembers you fondly.
Yes, I remember Barbara. I'll have to tell you about the San Quentin remote we were on. But I have a story to tell you before that.
Go ahead, just let her go.
Well, Howard Heyman was general manager when I was here. Even though he didn't hire me, Ham hired me. So, anyway, he retired or left or got fired or something. And pretty soon Ollie Hayden, does anyone know Ollie Hayden? He became general manager. And the station went on strike. The announcers went on strike. And so when that happens, usually management has to step in and fill in the shoes of, so the announcers were on strike. So Ollie says to me, well, Alice, I'm going to sign you Sunday early morning shift. Well, I didn't like getting up this morning. And that Sunday was a rainy day like this, only it was dark and miserable outside. I pull up and I come up to the door and I open the door, I have the key. And somebody yells, boo! There was this person standing behind the door. And I thought, my God. And I look in there, that's a guy I had hired for the sales force. He's standing there with no clothes on, except he had his tighty-whities on. But he was so white, the pants were white, he looked like he was totally white.
What was he doing?
Why was he doing there that early?
I said, how'd you get in here? He said, I climbed in the window in the ladies' room upstairs. There's a window. I said, where are your clothes? He said, they got wet, so I took them off. He said, but I lost my shoes. Alice looked for my shoes. He must have taken them off when he had to climb up the side of the building. So anyway, I said, let's call him Jeremy. Jeremy, I got lots to do, just don't get in my way. First of all, I had to go in, the FM studio was over there. I had to put on the church tapes first. And while this started, I come in here and do live, according to the log, music and commercials and tapes and what have you, and news. I'm sitting here in the corner of my eye, I see Jeremy out there, and he has the scissors from the loosely termed newsroom in there. That's where the AP wire and the other ones were. So we had the scissors that the blades were a foot long so that you could cut the copy in one fell swoop. So he's got this scissors and he's going like this, as if he's stabbing somebody. on the ground. And I didn't like the looks of that. So I call up Ollie and I say, I've got a Looney Tune here in the station with me, and I'm worried about him. I think he's crazy. Ollie says, it's your shift, Alice, you handle it. So I call up the Berkeley police and they said, it's not our jurisdiction, call it Oakland. I call the Oakland police, they say, it's not our jurisdiction, call Berkeley. So in the meantime, this guy is acting weirder and weirder. And I'm thinking, well, I guess I could scream out to the audience that I'm being attacked, but I better not do that. That might not be too cool for the station, so.
Wow.
Somebody said to me, one of the police department said, he's crazy, why don't you call a psychiatric hospital? So I don't know which hospital I called. I may have asked operator to connect me with the psychiatric hospital. And I told him I've got this guy that he's scaring me, and pretty soon a little paddy wagon pulls out in front, white, and these guys all come in here with a straight jacket, and they put Jeremy in the straight jacket. As they're going out the door, he says, don't forget to look for my shoes, Alice. I said, don't worry, I'll find them. So that was one of my...
That sounds like a unique day, a morning to start the morning.
Yes, indeed.
Wow. Your Beverly also mentioned something about a story regarding the Highlands Inn trade and you were in a 90 and you got made the newspaper or the TV. Remember that story?
Yeah, that's not really a radio story.
Okay.
I can tell to you later if you want.
All right.
Let me tell you about the San Quentin. Doing a remote at San Quentin. The station was integrated, as you know. We had a lot of black employees. And two of the black guys got together. And they must have had a lot of friends that were in San Quentin. So they talked to the warden and got an okay to do a remote. So we're tallying up what our expenses are going to be to go out to San Quentin. They said it's going to be so much for the bus. I say, bus, what do we need a bus for? For the girls, I say, what girls? What do we need girls for? For the fashion show. I said, what? They said, the brothers like fashion shows. They like the girls. So here's a busload of cute little gals. Au naturel, in other words, they're not wearing any under things, and they come down on the runway bouncing, and the guys are hooting, hollering, and yelling, and screaming. Barbara Bernstein and I and some of the gals are standing there watching. Pretty soon we were told to go sit over there, so then the girls are finished with the fashion show and they come sit with us, and the guys just lost it. And they come barreling toward us. And then some black Muslim prisoners got up and took us into the laundry room and locked us in there. So we wouldn't be gang raped by these intense incest
Wow.
prisoners. So then they shut San Quentin down. So KRE shut San Quentin down.
Wow. Do you remember what year that was?
It was sometime around 72, because I became general manager in 72. And that's an interesting story too.
Oh, yeah.
Still working for Mr. White at that point?
No, for Chet Huntley,
Chet Huntley ended then.
Horizons Broadcasting. So, because I was a sales manager, the owners, there was, in addition to Chet Huntley, there were two owners in New York, Jerry Feniger and Bill, I can't remember Bill's last name, nice man. So they started calling me up and asking me things about the station, and they said, we are going to remove Ollie from his position. We want you to become the new general manager. So they said, this is how we're going to handle it. We had a trade at Berkeley House, which is on University Avenue. So you go to Berkeley House and go in the back way and take the elevator that is not for regular people. The
Service elevator.
self-service elevator, go up to such and such a floor and such a room number, and knock three times, ask for Joe. And Marty Liquor was in the room, and he was there. Guy that would come out sometimes in the stead of Jerry and Bill. So he has a yellow pad with all the names of the staff, everybody on it was. He said, we're going to have to cut the staff tremendously because we were not making that much revenue. So he shows me the pad. He says, now, this first thing you're going to do, get to the station, and Ollie's going to be told Marty is going to tell him he's out. So Ollie comes down the stairs with his box of belongings, and I'm escorted up to the general manager's office, sit behind the big desk. Then Marty gives me the yellow pad. He says, you start on the phone. Start at the top of the page. So then I had to fire about 13 people that day,
Wow.
which was really, really tough.
Yeah.
One little gal was so proud of being on the air with the news, and her daddy was in town. He was going to listen to her that night, and she cried. I gotta be on the air for my daddy. I felt very sorry for her, but what could I do? Marty is sitting right next to me.
Yeah.
And so one of the guys got so worked up he got down on his hands and knees and cried. Begged me not to fire him. I looked at Marty and I said, these are my orders.
Yeah.
So we would really cut down on our staff. And I had to do it so that it really get me to start off on the right foot exactly. Then it was up to me to do something to turn the station around, get it in the black instead of the red, which it was. And one of the things I decided thing to do was get year-long contracts from all the people. And so I said, for every year contract, we could send the person and his wife or whomever he wants to take to Hawaii. And the salesman who signs up will go along as well. So immediately we had all kinds of new contracts for a year each. And the salesmen loved it because they got to go to Hawaii, and the clients, the customers loved it because a free trip to Hawaii isn't to be sneezed at.
Yeah.
So then later on I did the same thing with a Mexico trip. So we kept most of our sponsors under contract.
For a full year.
Did you do any programming changes?
Yes, indeed. We changed the music. Well, before, the station was kind of a elevator music. And I don't know that much about music myself, but I got my new staff, the ones that were left, and any that I hired, like David Berkeley. We all got together and talked about what kind of format we should have instead of the elevator music. And I had a friend do a demographic survey of our listenership. And turned out there wasn't a jazz station, so we decided to go with jazz and blues. And that really brought in a lot more business too, because instantly the station was something that people wanted to listen to instead of the old elevator music.
On the KPAT days.
Yeah, that was KPAT, I think.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, the station got changed to KRE, which was its original call letters. The 3-letter call sign was an old station.
Right.
I understand the station was one of the first in the country, is that right?
Yeah, one of the first. Yeah. Right
So
up
when I tell people I worked at KRE, they think there's something wrong with me that I left a letter off.
But you didn't, it was right here.
Oh, I'll tell you about the FBI.
Okay.
We had a guy, a stringer. His name was Clarence Johnson. He was black, and he think he had been in trouble a lot in his life. And on the air, he would call the police the pigs. And I called him in my office, and I said, we can't call the police the pigs. He says, well, more or less, that's what they are, and so on. And he says, and I'm not going to change. I said, and I'm sorry, you're no longer going to be a stringer with our station. My station. I said, not on my air, are you going to say that? So anyway, Clarence was fired. Later on, one of our most popular announcers, Donnell Lewis, he was hired as a salesperson, but that didn't work out. But he had a very nice black voice on the air, and the demographic of this area, there were a lot of blacks, and they liked Donnell, so he was sitting here on the air. And I always listened to the station. I never bothered turning to anything else. I'm driving around somewhere and I hear all of this African drums, and Donnell is saying, come on out, all you brothers, meet in our parking lot here. So I thought, I thought there's something that's going to happen, that's going to lose our license. So I immediately pull up here at the station. I walk in. Clarence is right here with Donnell egging him on. So I rush in here, and I say, Clarence, you get out of here. You know you're fired. You. And I said, Donnell, what are you doing? You could make us lose our license. He said, I'm sorry. Clarence made me choose between what I thought I should do and color. Clarence called me the white bitch. Mm. So anyway, I ended up firing Donnell as well because he let that go over the air. So he left. There's nothing for me to do but stay right here, and in the meantime all the parking lot is filled up with all the guys who were listening who thought, well, there's going to be a riot over there or something like that. So I'm sitting here all by myself trying to say things on the air and playing records and whatever. So that was kind of an uncomfortable all night, because Donnell was an overnight announcer. So that because broadcasting is under the FCC, federal, next thing I know, the FBI is here finding out what's going on. One of the FBI agents was stationed at the desk out there as a receptionist. And then he took me in my office and said, first of all, don't get in your car without looking under the hood.
Hmm. Who called the FBI?
I don't know. I called the station lawyers. Maybe they did.
Maybe they did.
Because the first thing I did, after I had to fire Donnell, I called our lawyers. George Malty was...
I've heard that name before.
Yes. He's a broadcast lawyer. So he said, we've got to get you out of there, Alice. So he came and picked me up and took me to the Berkeley house, which was where I met with Marty Lickard, and said, "You stay here until we get this straightened out." So they may have called the FBI, I don't know. Anyway, so when I get back here, I meet with the FBI in my office, and he says, don't get in your car without looking under the hood. And he said, "You got to start sleeping around. Can't stay in your house, because," he said, they'll throw a bomb in there."
Oh, wow.
And someone today just reminded me that there was a dead chicken tied up on my front door. And there's said, "You will be dead, D-E-D. You will be dead." So, in addition, the FBI guy gave me a pair of white cotton gloves, and he said, "These are for you to wear when you open the mail, and you're the only one to open the mail, because if there's a letter bomb, the white cotton gloves will not obliterate any fingerprints that would be on there. Nothing about if my hands got blown up along with it."
Yes.
So that was an interesting,
Yeah.
Interesting period of time here at the
Yeah,
station.
very
Pretty
interesting.
scary.
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
And what year was this approximately? Do you remember the year on this one? Approximately.
Probably 76, maybe 74 or 76. I really don't know. Don't take this for.
Yeah.
So that all settled down without any
It all
other
settled
big,
down.
without any other big events?
No, I just was. I was afraid that there would be
Yeah.
repercussions from the black community, because the Black Panthers got all involved.
Interesting.
But it all settled down very nicely when they saw the FBI presence. But we got a lot of bomb threats.
Interesting.
It was, I don't know who our receptionist was then. I guess the FBI guy finally left, and we had a gal receptionist, and she'd bring my intercom on the phone, and I pick it up, and she says, "We just had one." I say, "What?" She says, "You know." So if I was had sponsors in the office with me, whatever, we would just go outside and go and get in my car and finish our meeting until. And then we notified the authorities that there was a bomb threat, and they'd come and search the place and couldn't find it.
Amazing story.
So
And
I had,
how did the end come when you left it in '79? Was it just a change of ownership, or did you decide that that was enough? or-
the station. I love the station. I would have never. Here comes Beverly.
What you were saying?
She passed me a note to ask about the SLA.
It seemed to me like we would get phone calls that we have a tape from Patty Hearst. It's in a gas station under the wastebasket in the men's room. We'd always send somebody out. Sometimes we got a tape, and sometimes we didn't.
Wow. So you're kind of like a conduit to get the word out to the public what was going on with the SLA sometimes.
So anyway, how did I leave? The station was for sale, and I didn't know whether they would keep me on or not. So George Malty was representing a station in San Francisco, Channel 26, and he said they're looking for a new general manager. And I told him about you. So the next thing you know, I'm traipsing across the bridge every day going to Channel 26 over in China Basin. And I hated the commute. And I didn't like the atmosphere. This place was so friendly. I knew everybody. And we were also casual, as I said. We always had a station dog. So we were a very casual, fun place to work. And a lot of camaraderie.
Sounds like you set that up. I mean, that's your personality.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so. Many, many people tell me that was their favorite job here, because we had a reunion in Oakland one time, and I knew every single person there. They were all people that I either hired or they were under me. And and we went around the table and people made comments about the station. And everybody said it was the most fun station, most happy place they've ever worked.
Hmm.
So I went over to Channel 26 and I absolutely hated it. So I resigned and I got a job with AP, Associated Press. My name is Alice Potter, AP. So I was thinking for some kind of a cute gimmick because I went to all the conventions and I got some of the same paper they use for the machine, the wire machine, and I typed up my resume in the AP language that they use.
Great.
And so I went to the convention and I passed out my resume, and next thing you know, AP calls me in for interview, and I was hired on the spot.
Wow. That's pretty good.
So I worked for AP for a while.
What was your work? What sort
Yeah,
of
what-
work?
Sales. I was
Sales.
a broadcast executive, a BE, they call me a BE.
BE and AP.
Yeah, that's right. So it was a traveling job, and my territory was northern California and northern Nevada. Well, I had just bought my house in Oakland, and I liked sleeping in my own bed. And they wanted me on the road or in a motel or a hotel every single night. And that gets very old if you've ever had a traveling job. So by mutual agreement, we decided that it wasn't the right job for me. So then I retired and I started writing books. One of the books I wrote was, I Can Do That.
Yeah. That seems to be your signature.
Yes.
Yes.
Signature. And it sounds like you've done it too.
Yeah. I tried my best.
Yeah.
Did your book sell?
Yes. I have a whole bunch of them at home. They're not in print anymore in Barnes and Noble and places like that, but I bought out all the
Unsold inventory.
from the publisher. It was published by Penguin,
Yeah.
Putnam Penguin.
That's great. Well, thank you for your time today.
You're quite welcome.
Appreciate it. And by the reaction of everybody, you're the star here today.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
everybody's so happy to
See
see
you.
you, Alice.
Oh, I'm so happy to see people that I know.
Yeah, and that's just the way you set it up. Just the way you set it up.
It's fun to come back here and see the place.
And hopefully we can keep it up this way to your satisfaction. Definitely. All
I
right.
even slept on the couch in my office. Sometimes when things were really bad, we were in the midst of having all the commotion, because I wanted to protect the station.
Right.
I didn't want any bombs or anything like that.
So you had a rollaway bed or something.
We had a couch in my office.
Mhm. How many nights do you think you slept there a month? Probably a lot during the main problems.
A few times.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that probably would not be too kosher for the owners, but
But you were protecting the station.
that was my mission.
That was your mission, right? Exactly.